Hey everyone, this is Oscar from Underdog. I've got one of my students who is getting really good at making tracks. However, when it comes to drum programming, he says, Oscar, I don't use toms at all. I'd like to use them, but I don't know how to use them. I just avoid using them. How do I use toms? So let's talk about toms. Before we go any further, like the video, subscribe to the channel, maybe sign up for one of our classes on www.underdog.brussels or join us on the Discord channel. Like I said, we're going to talk about toms. Why would you use toms in your productions? Well, they complete the groove in the low end. They complete the groove in the low end, and they do so by providing syncopation compared to the kick. To understand what that means, I'd like us to talk for a moment about strong beats and weak beats. Imagine you've got yourself a typical house loop. 1, 2, 3, 4 kick drums. And it loops over and over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We could talk about the beats in terms of strong and weak beats, and we could say the first one is probably the strongest beat because it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the three other kicks are also strong beats, but less strong than that first one. We start to create a hierarchy of what are the strong beats versus the less strong beats. Then in between these kick drums, there are a number of smaller subdivisions that we can also consider beats, but even weaker than those. So imagine halfway between each kick drum, there is the upbeat. Those are weaker than the downbeats being marked by the kick drum, but still pretty strong. So let's say you've got the first kick drum up there, then the other kick drums, then the upbeats, and then between each upbeat and each downbeat, there's another 16th note that is often used in percussion. So those are even lower than that. Those are the lowest or the weakest beats. Now this hierarchy, this picture, this is what people groove to. This is how people orient their movement because they want to usually with their movements hit the strong beats of the loop. And if in the low end, the only thing playing is a kick, well, it's a very, very straight groove. Let's say it goes 1, 2, 3, 4 with nothing else going on. So toms can provide a solution there, and they do so by providing syncopation. And what's syncopation? Syncopation is nothing more than a musical element that is highlighting one of those weak beats. And then the interplay between that straight drum loop and the syncopated beat creates a kind of a pushing and pulling motion that is interesting. And of course, if you layer too many syncopated beats on top of each other, it can get a bit chaotic. But you probably want to go somewhere away from being super straight and robotic to adding in a little bit of syncopation into your music. And it's up to you to figure out how much. Let me show you that in practice. So check out the following production. This is the context that I want to show you. Okay, so that's got a lot of stuff going on at a lot of different frequency levels, and all I want to talk about is the low end today. So the low end, by that I mean the kick and the syncopated toms. So let's start again. So immediately you can see that these toms, they provide something for the people to dance to or to move, to orient themselves to in the low end. Now let's look closer. So if you look at the toms, I always advise that whenever you're talking about things like rhythm, separate out the rhythmic aspect from the pitch aspect, because yeah, it's a lot of information to take in, and a lot of sounds they have a particular rhythm at which they play and a particular pitch at which they play. So separate out those two dimensions. First figure out what rhythm you want it to play, then figure out what the appropriate note is that you want it to play. That's the easiest way to go about it. So if we look at the toms pattern, this is something that I would recommend. I just took a sample into a sampler just from a sample pack, and let me show you what it sounds like. Okay. That's really simple, right? Now, look at, as I was saying, our kick is super straight 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And against that, we've got this syncopated pattern, which is highlighting the offbeats. So if we look at the grid in 16th notes, you can see that, let's say that these are the strongest beats, right? Then you've got the upbeats, which is halfway in between, those are the secondary strongest beats. And then in between that are the 16th notes. And as you can see here, on those offbeat 16th notes, this tom is playing a syncopated rhythm. Tick, tick, tick. So if you were just playing the tom in itself, you would not necessarily know where the downbeats are, because this tom, if you listen really only to this tom, you might even be fooled into thinking that this is the downbeat, you know? But only in the context of this kick loop do you understand that it starts here with 1, 2, pick, pick. So conclusions that you can take from this is look for those weak beats and try to accentuate them, and don't start programming toms on the same moment as your kick drum. I mean, there's nothing particularly wrong with that, but then you're not doing syncopation, then you're doing something else. Now this is a simple 2-bar pattern, right? Because it's supposed to be not something that draws that much attention to itself. It's just something to complete the groove, right? It's not going to evolve that much. It's always going to stay pretty stable. Whenever the kick is going to play, this is going to play. And now that I've got the rhythm down, I can start sound designing it. And one thing that I noticed in a lot of these tracks is that you've got some high toms and some low toms. And honestly, you can just achieve that by pitching down your toms. So in this designed toms group, I've turned it into this. Nice and atmospheric, right? So all that is a simple tom, probably the same one that I used in the example, but it plays the first note at its original pitch, and then the other one, how many semitones down? 5 semitones down. That's the relationship of the perfect fifth. So you have a root note plus the perfect fifth below. That's -5 semitones. So in general, when you're looking for sounds, like when you're looking to give extra pitches to sounds, try an octave up. That's 12 semitones up. Try an octave down, 12 semitones down. But then the next magical numbers are +7 semitones, which is the perfect fifth above, or -5 semitones, which is the perfect fifth below. If you don't understand what that means, it doesn't matter. Just try like shifting the magic number of 7 semitones up or 5 semitones down, 12 up or 12 down. You're always going to get musically pleasing results. And see how this sounds here. So this is a nice deep tom, right? It's pitched down a little bit. It's already quite low, and there was a click in it, so I rolled off the ultra highs. Then in some of those Afterlife and Life and Death tracks, I felt like it was layered with another bass, so I added this bass, which is playing the same notes. And together. It just gives a bit more body to it. So I'm just subtly sound designing this stuff. And on the group, I've got a filter delay, which just adds a little bit of stereo information, a drum bus to bring up a little bit of crunch, and then a little bit of a reverb just to place it in a kind of a physical space. Then one thing that I did also add, because I heard that in a lot of these kind of tracks, is a sustained bass, which is not very overt. You can't hear it very clearly. But just sitting at the bottom of the mix, there's this long sustained bass, which is holding the warmth of the track together. Just like that, kind of a brass sound, kind of a horn sound. All it is a kind of a reese or a detuned saw with some shimmer unison on it. And notice actually how this bass is highlighting the first kick, again adding to the fact that that first kick drum is actually the strongest beat. The whole tom syncopation is a supporting actor for the kick drum. The kick drum is really what you want people to be dancing to, plus these toms to complete the groove. So let's listen to just the rhythm section here. I hope that was helpful to some of you. Come check us out on underdog.brussels, join us on the Discord channel, or leave a comment below if there's something you'd like to see me do. Until next time, my name is Oscar. Stay producing, take care, be good to one another, and bye-bye.